Hey guys, just wanted to do a little bit of a reminder lesson on how to do round elbows. So I've drawn out most of this already. Hopefully this is just a little bit of a refresher for you. So I'm doing a 7-inch round elbow with a 7-inch throat. It's a 4-piece elbow. Seam is on the middle, and I indicated with a dotted line how the seam is staggered. If you guys remember, the elbow rule is the number of pieces times 2 minus 2. So this elbow has 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 times 2 equals 8, minus 2 equals 6. So that means there's going to be 6 segments in this elbow. And remember that each middle gore is made up of 2 of the end gores. So this one's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's where that number, or how it applies to the elbow. So it's a 90-degree elbow. 90 divided by that 6 number gives us a miter angle of 15 degrees. So this angle right in here, I'll just draw a dotted line in there. So that angle is going to be 15 degrees. And using that angle, we can calculate the seam height and also the rise radius. So if I just take that triangle and draw it out here, it's going to be 15 degrees. And from here to here is 7 inches, and then halfway into the middle of the seam there is 3.5 inches. 7 plus 3.5 is 10.5. So that's where I use this seam height calculation here. So because we're dealing with adjacent and we're looking for opposite for the seam height, it's going to be a tan function. So tan 15 degrees times 10.5 is 2 and 13/16. So that number right there is going to be the seam height. And then if I've drawn out the full blank size here. So 7 times pi gives us the 22 for the stretch out. That's this number here. If I take that 6 inches from the very beginning and I take the seam height and multiply it by 6, that'll give us the height of our blank size. So seam height times 6 is 16 7/8 to get us this total height here. So now I can lay out the entire elbow on a piece of metal 22 by 16 7/8. Hopefully that makes sense. The last little bit here is the rise radius, and that would be from the seam to the back of the elbow, that little height right there. So again, it's going to be a really small triangle now. It's still 15 degrees. To find the rise radius from here to there is 3.5 inches because it's half of 7. So the 3.5. So the rise radius formula is going to be tan 15 times 3.5 gives us 15/16. So hopefully this makes sense. I have the stretch out, the width of the 7-inch pipe, which is 22 inches. I divided it into 12 equal parts. The first thing I do is put my seam height on here. As you can see, seam height. I draw a line straight through it. And then that rise radius, I make a little half circle in here. And remember that 15/16 is the radius. So from this line here to there is 15/16, right? It's not a 15/16 diameter, it's a radius, right? Rise radius. That's one of the mistakes some people make, is they'll make this a 15/16 diameter. So anyway, if I swing that 15/16 radius, that gives me a full diameter there. And if I draw one on either end of this, then it's really easy for me to connect the lines and make this elbow. So don't forget to draw a line connecting from the furthest outside point of that radius as well, right? That's going to be the highest point. This is not going to translate very well because it's so small. But hopefully you guys can see what's happening here. So the way I can tell that I did this right is there will be 7 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Make sure you count them, because if you have 5 lines, that means you've missed the outer 2 edges of that circle. So make sure there's going to be 7 lines in there. So the next step for laying this pattern out, if I start at my seam, at the seam height, which is the very first line I drew right in the middle, now I'm going to go over to number 1, up 1, make a dot, over 1, up 1, make a dot, over 1, up 1, and that gets me to the highest point there. Now I'm going to start going down, over 1, down 1, 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 until I get to the very bottom. And then I'm going to start going up again. So over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, and that should get me right back to the seam height again. And then that is our first gore pattern. All right, so now if you guys remember, to lay out the rest of this fitting, if I take that seam height, so I'm going to start right in the middle of that circle, use that seam height, oops. If I transfer that seam height up on either end, and then draw a straight line through that, then now I can, right on that center line there, I'm going to just start transferring my measurements up. So I can start with that seam height, transfer it up. I'm going to do the same on the other end because it's also a seam height. And right on number 7 here, it's also on that seam height line. So, right, if I took number 7 and transferred it up, it's the same measurement. And then I'm just going to go through and do all of those. So my needle's always going to stay on that seam height line that I drew in the middle. I'm just going to take a measurement from here, transfer it up here. So I can go across and match the ones that are also the same height. This one follows that line. So again, needle here, transfer that measurement up, and it also follows the same as number 5. So again, 5 is there, transfer it up, and 4 is the shortest one. Transfer that measurement up. Now I'm going to do the same on the back side here. Take that measurement, transfer it up. That line also shares a 12. And number 9 here. Nine shares 11. And finally we got number 10. Transfer that one up. And now I have my next pattern here. All right, so there's my end gore there, one of my middle gores. Now if I did the same thing again, put that seam height on either end, drew a line and transferred those lines up, I would end up with my other middle gore, and then that automatically makes my end gore. So now there's 4 pieces there. 1, 2, 3, 4. All 4 gores. All right, hopefully that makes sense and you guys remembered everything from before anyways. This is just a review. This is a precursor to learning something a little bit new. So anyway, hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, make sure you call or email me.